Thank you so much, Parikshit sir, for joining us on a podcast at Dawdle. Always great to have leaders like you, joining us to share their experience and insights. You have a prolific experience inside, facility management, workplace, SaaS, etc. kind of domains. But just as we do with all the, leaders whom we invite, if you could take us to your journey so far, so as to give a context to our audience who will be watching it.
Thank you, Rishikesh and Team Dawdle for inviting me for your podcast. I'm delighted to share some of my life experience, especially what I have gathered over the last 39 years. So that's been a considerable time. So in less than 30 seconds, if I have to describe, I'm an engineer by profession, did my management education from US. This is my 39th year in the professional journey and still going strong. Out of those 39 years, I worked for pure play technology companies for a little over 20 years, Johnson Controls and Honeywell, both in India and outside. So I came with a technology orientation when I switched over to the service industry. And my whole objective was that in technology industries, you work with very talented and gifted resources. So most of our colleagues were engineering graduates from either India or from overseas university. And obviously their bandwidth, their ability to take up a challenge or innovate or come out with exciting solutions, applications was immense. Our job as team leaders or business leaders was to kind of get the forces or bind them together with a common purpose and goal, correct? And the rest of the magic would happen because individually each one was extremely gifted. But when I came back to India, I realized that there is a huge opportunity of bringing technology in the service sector. And I think the case in point is you see how simple use cases of ordering food or sending a consignment from point A to point B has built billion-dollar businesses. So the service industry, when I came back in the mid 2000s, needed a significant kind of a digital and technology uh, push, and that's where I came back and ran a facilities management company. We grew to 100 crore number. Imagine that this is mid 2000, so scaling to 2000, 100 crores in 6 years was not an easy job in a fragmented industry. And then we sold it to a global multinational with the best multiples, which is still unchallenged in the industry. And once that kind of challenge was over, the multinational company, which is Compass in this case, wanted me to run their business. We grew the business from 100 crores to about 500 crores plus in about 6 years. Very satisfying journey coming from a technology background and working with completely different skill sets. And then decided to really come back to the core area, which is my passion, and blend my technology, leadership, and business acumen to create applications and solutions which solve real life problems. So that's in a nutshell these 39 years. Aerospace, building automation, control and automation, industrial automation, facilities management, building science are the sectors where I work.
So, Pop sir, you will always be a role model to a lot of, young guys who are trying to make some space inside the industry. And I'm always surprised to see the energy levels even after 39, so-called 39 years of experience that you have. My first question to you is, a lot has been talked about workplaces, rapidly evolving. But from your perspective, what does a truly smart workplace look like?
Yeah, the definition, if we were doing this podcast in 2019, early 2020, it would have been very different. Basically. And when I do this after a watershed event like COVID and a global pandemic, the definition is extremely different. So today, a workplace, especially a place of work where senior executives, young executive talent, or young employees would love to go, is where they look forward to a safe and secure environment. So the place has to be a blend of create an appeal. That means you should look forward to getting back to the workplace because there's something exciting happening. You love being in that place, which means that friction points in a place where you work. So when you say home is a place that you love to come back. Why? Because you have less of frictional conversations in most places. So anything which is less friction is lovable. And therefore, what we call a smart workplace is typically were disjointed and broken processes, which people had to do manually. The technology is allowing us to kind of bring it together, make it smart, and therefore less frictionless from an experience standpoint for the end user. So that's one definition that post COVID, when hybrid work formats, multiple other work formats like work from where you are. So organizations, as you know, are reaching out. I mean, I qualify this. Forward-looking organizations are reaching out to say, hey, you could be in your hometown, and we'll set up an office for you there. So some of these guys from the same town walk out of a modern office. So tier 2, tier 3 cities are seeing great co-working spaces, etc., etc. And people flock in there because they get a great environment. And in these kind of new generation offices or the newly evolved offices, frictionless, that means getting your laptop to sync in with the Wi-Fi, or getting into a meeting room where the screen is up, or ordering your tea and coffee, getting your seat booked in advance. So these kind of elements are a given. And because they are a given, because you don't want to spend so much time doing it over an email, requesting for an approval and a permission. So in a nutshell, having to explain all this, that smart is an attribute of modern offices, but COVID also changed our life. COVID taught us all over the world, especially in India, that when we go to public places, our so-called perspective of hygiene was completely wrong. Okay, we felt that public places would not cause any health hazard for us. Till COVID taught us the lesson that you need to be careful when you are in public. Yes. So therefore, office is construed as a public place, and employees, and you'll be surprised to know that we work with a very large e-commerce company. Post-COVID, they said, we'll come back provided the management gives us an assurance that the office is safe and healthy. Okay? And which brought us into this engagement with them to make sure that there is a visibility there. So there's a huge screen at the entry of the office which talks about air quality, talks about water quality, surface hygiene, and so on and so forth, which allowed the employees to come back. And also, it was a great stuff for the organization to say that, hey, we are responsible and we are acting responsibly to get you to a place. So smart and healthy are the two attributes that define workplace post-COVID. And I think it will continue, albeit the fact that there'll be different form and shape over the years.
Yes, sir. And say, talking about, a lot of organizations struggle with these fragmented facility operations. So how can, digital tools or technology or orchestration transform the support services efficiency?
So, Rishikesh, you come from a tech background. So this is a no-brainer for you. Wherever digital technology has met the objectives or the purpose or the goal, why people invest in technology or why people opt for a technology-enabled solution is for a simple reason, is digital orchestration. So what we otherwise in, let's say, early 2000 would do, a manual process orchestration. So we would talk about Japanese and German technology of process-driven organization. And there were custodians in the business who would be responsible for the governance of that process. Correct? So it was largely manual. Responsibility allocations were there. Processes were very, very tight and didn't allow any kind of innovation till somebody realized that there were inefficiencies. In the facilities management industry, following the same trend, even till 2022-23, just after we came out of COVID, I would say 90% of the processes were manually managed. Okay? Till people found that there were cost pressures. So organizations post-COVID started to question costs at every level in the organization, starting from manufacturing, supply chain, human resources, so on and so forth, and facilities management and business support service. So when the question of cost came, senior leaders found that there was a significant amount of largesse or significant amount of cushion in the cost structure in which support service costs were built. So to cover inefficiency, we're covering with a supervisor or somebody would look after it. So then came the adoption of digital technology. And as I speak, many organizations are gradually transforming some of their painful processes into a digital platform But I think the journey has just begun. It's a huge task, and there's no one size fits all approach. But the fact is that 6 to 7 out of 10 administrators, facility administrators understand that if they are to scale, if they are to create a kind of very strong, foolproof uh, uh, service culture, they have to lean and they would need the support of digital. Did I answer your question, Rishi?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. And there's a related question on top of it is that you talked about this involvement of cost rationalization and efficiency, which is a key driver. How does you think organization will be able to allocate funds for facility management and related stuff?
Very interesting. So this is a question I was confronted with when I was leading a business unit of a large multinational company, and we were talking about a SAP rollout, SAP rollout. So there was a pro group and an anti group. The pro group obviously said that, see, our peers or some of our larger competitors have already rolling out or in the process of rolling out SAP to be efficient and more effective in the market. And we ought to do that. So there was a compelling business case. And then there were senior pros in the business who said that, do you see any fallacy or, kind of things dropping off? So why do you want to break something which is already got into a rhythm? And that was really a meaningful. So in a large business, if you're running a multi-million-dollar regional business, you don't want to tinker around just for the sake of tinkering.
Yes.
So when we called up the SAP guys and when we called up the IBM guys who were the implementation partners, they were kind of skirting this issue. So they said, hey, efficiency, a lot of your peers are working and they're reasonable backing to their claim. But they couldn't dollarize equation, saying that this is the cost and ROI or return of investment in 4, 5, 6 years, which is what the audience was looking. And I think the answer to my question, and this was what, 14 years back, and my answer would be pretty similar. That we haven't found a linear equation to say that if you invest in digital technology in 3.5 years or 4 years, you'll get a return on investment. No, we haven't found. Because each use case is unique. Each use case is specific to an organizational requirement.
Yes.
But we've kind of tried to work around it, and many of the applications that Kalido, the organization that I have founded, deliver has a case study led return on investment. So we couldn't commit a pre-deployment return on investment, but we are conscious of the fact that this answer has to be given to somebody who signed our purchase order. And therefore, we made sure that when we complete the assignment and we run it for a period, a significant period, we would kind of rewind the clock to get back to that question which remained unanswered. So I think each of our application now that we have about 40 plus large customers in India, we have some form of a ROI and evidenceable ROI. Okay. And this allows more compelling conversations with the CFOs. Yes. To your question, I have done a lot of work with global founders in this space, in the PropTech space. And their take is that a good PropTech solution, especially post-construction, should not have more than 4 years of return on investment. That's the baseline that they're getting to. I'm trying to bring it lower and lower.
Got it, sir. This is useful. And also wanted to take your insights on how do you see these smart and healthy environments in workplaces can move from good ones to must have.
Yeah. Before I come to that, there's another I'd like to add to my earlier answer. So there are always certain ROIs that you can empirically evidence. That means 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or whatever. But then there are certain commitments of investments which are towards the larger wellness or to align with the larger purpose of the organization. It's like health. Are there any evidenceable impact on health? Some people say, yeah, count on the productivity, available number of days that the employee comes to work, and so on and so forth. Now, there are multiple research done by Big Four. There are multiple research done by McKinsey, which are in public domain. But if you read through this great white paper, they do not really pinpoint on a number, but they clearly demonstrate the benefit. So to conclude the answer to your previous
Yes.
question, there are ROI which can be evidenced very, very empirically. And then there are uh, certain digital investments which gives longer term return and impact on an organizational purpose and objective, which you can't really dollarize. Yeah.
And now the next question was around how do you see these safety and healthy environments in the workplaces can move from good to have and must have? And you have already answered a lot of it, like in the previous pointers that you
Yeah.
made.
So I will be brief. So many countries there are already legislations around
Yes.
uh, indoor air quality.
Yes.
Harvard Medical carried out post COVID certain uh, uh, really amazing um, lab exercise with a hypothesis thereafter that indoor environment could be 6 to 6 more polluted than a ambient environment. So,
Mm.
so if you're living in one of these large cities anywhere in the world, which is polluted, you think that you're safe inside, but you are actually exposed to a much higher degree of pollution.
Yeah.
So some countries, smaller countries, have already legislated. So, for example, in Belgium, there is a rule, there is a statute that all public buildings must monitor carbon dioxide. So, carbon dioxide, unlike in Asia, where the dust particle is a silent killer, carbon dioxide continues to be the common minimum denominator across the world. So higher carbon dioxide means you are not able to breathe quality air. So they have legislated public buildings must monitor this, and it is a license criteria for renewal of that commercial building to operate.
Yes.
In Dubai, they have already rolled out a 2030 program, UAE, where all public buildings must look at health and hygiene, especially on air quality. Okay, so the buildings are preparing for meeting those legislations. Certain parts of America, these are in a semi-legislated form. In India, there is a court ruling, NGT. You know, NGT has already recommended to the government that air quality and various things must follow certain standards.
Yes.
There's also a bill pending in the parliament, which is to talk about workplaces in the same way as factories get audited. So
Mm.
the Factories Act would also apply to workplaces in vehicles, which means that there are mandated inspections, like in factories, there are inspectors who go and check whether those compliances are in place. A similar proposition is there to cover workplaces. It is pending a parliament approval. So once these are there, it will be like a tailwind where a good to have phenomena would become a must have.
Yes.
Case in point, Bombay has already legislated, Delhi has already legislated that all construction sites must monitor the particle levels in the environment during construction phase. So there isn't an exception that if you come across any construction sites in Bombay or in Delhi, that they are following, and the data, real-time data is uploaded to the CPC website every day.
So you have
So I
covered.
see
Yes.
the compliance-led adoption is imminent,
Yes.
but in a large country like India, it would take its own time. But it's something with a greater good, Rishikesh. It's not a lobby pushing something. Uh, uh, and I think therefore it's going to be a natural phenomena where public and general citizens like us will look for safer places, public
Yes.
places, as opposed to unsafe public places. Therefore, this adoption, both by legislation and the change of psyche and the lifestyle that we are all going through,
Yeah.
is uh, going to become a mainstream.
Absolutely, sir. I will be very happy if that happens. There's a lot of roadblocks when it comes to India, especially in this space. Sir, so you have talked a lot about the workplace, from an employee perspective, their health perspective. Now, I would also want your insights on, like, if you talk about energy and facility costs that are always rising worldwide. So how do you see these IoT and smart building systems contributing to cost reduction and also to sustainability?
So let me answer this in two parts. Let me take up the cost efficiency little later. Let me talk about the sustainability. Today, 70% of our new construct buildings, Rishikesh, that are coming for delivery in India, and I would uh, think that it's very different elsewhere in the world. But I have data for India, and therefore I'm saying that all the new buildings that would get occupied in the next 18 to 20 months, 70 to 75% of them are getting constructed with sustainable technology.
Yes.
That means they're embedded with sustainable material, embedded with sustainable technology, sustainable equipments, or equipments where you could eventually go for a carbon neutrality.
Yes.
Okay. So designs are, kind of gearing towards sustainability more and more. How quickly the balance 30% will catch up, I think it's a matter of time. It is also a factor that government subsidy towards creating, designing, and building sustainable buildings should be much more attractive. See, today one of the issues that developers, real estate developers, or if you are constructing, let's say, as a company,
Yes.
own use case, own use building, what would prompt you to make a sustainable other than making sure that you are, building it as per your larger purpose or goal of remaining a carbon neutral company or delivering the sustainability agenda that your organization has committed. So the incentive part, like in electric cars, has to be more compelling, and that 70% need would gradually move to 100. And I think there are already discussions. So new buildings are coming with sustainable technology, sustainable material, and sustainable uh, systems and procedure in terms of how they are operating. 700 million plus grade A buildings which were built prior to 2020, they're not sustainable. So the bigger question that the industry faces is how do you make those buildings sustainable? Because while the new stock is built in a sustainable way, what about those? Do you kind of junk them like you are junking the cars after 15 years that we are talking about? Can you do that for buildings? No, you can't, because they're much more costly assets, and to demolish a building takes years. So it is another interesting piece about government's incentive to incentivize existing building owners to move to sustainable technology. So that is for me a very interesting market, while the new construction is adopting in some form or other sustainable technology. Last point on sustainability, it costs more. So many people ask me the question that, but sustainable technology is so expensive. So it is, yeah. So if you go to a cart of one of those e-commerce fruit and vegetable company, commerce, you'll find that the organic product is about 20% costlier, right? Starting from a ginger to a lemon to even something as small as what we eat. And sustainability costs, sustainable technology and products have a initial higher cost, but we'll have to keep the larger piece in mind of the next 40 years. Unlike a lemon or a ginger, which may give you gratification right away, but a building when built with sustainable products and systems gives you a lower carbon emission over the next 40 years. So cost factor of building something more meaningful is something that we'll have to, but I think over a period of time, this cost will kind of reduce over a period of time. Interesting thing is, many countries are already preferring sustainable buildings for promoting the overall environmental sustainability of it, which in India we don't have. Which means that if there are 15 sustainable buildings constructed in the city of Bangalore or Hyderabad or NCR or Bombay, government is promoting those buildings as the first choice. In India, it is not happening. Why it is not happening? Because it's not government's job to promote anybody's product. But they have to create a framework where the residents or the occupants get certain kinds of rental income taxation benefit.
Yes.
Now, that is where government may not be involved in tom-tomming a building or a real estate developers who's committed to building a sustainable asset or a sustainable property. But ensure that when you pay a rent for the occupants, that there is a tax benefit. Now, that is yet to come. And once that comes, and I'm sure it will happen, I would see that sustainable buildings would be a mainstay, and that cost differential element, which kind of keeps away the 30% of the real estate developers not building sustainable buildings, would start to reduce rapidly. And that is also an answer to the old stock of buildings which are not sustainable, where the real estate companies or the building owners would kind of invest to upgrade to a sustainable technology, and then they know that I am going to get certain kinds of tax dividends in terms of the yields that I have, or the occupants will get certain benefits from their income tax slabs.
I got it, sir. That is very important, actually. Sir, towards the fag end of this, podcast, we have, would you like to touch upon a few use cases of how predictive maintenance is being used for improving asset efficiency, inside facilities, and also to reduce downtime?
So let me, because of my background from aviation earlier, when an aircraft, let's say Airbus 320, which is one of the largest, which constitute the largest number of planes in India. If you combine all the airline companies, when they do a ground check, there are multiple predictive diagnostic solutions. Now, in a $400 million asset, which is flying from point A to point B, carrying 120 to 150 people, you can't take even a 1% risk. So the product is built with multiple level redundancies. So pneumatic controls have 3-level redundancies.
Yes.
Your wing flaps, which came in a lot of discussions during the recent tragedy in Ahmedabad, many people don't know that actually there are 3 levels of redundancy on that pneumatic control system. Level 1 fails, level 2 fails, level 3 fails. So those kind of inbuilt redundancies are there. So these kind of high value assets have been using predictive diagnostic techniques for a long time. Power plants, for example, you can't expect a turbine to suddenly stop. Now, what could cause the reason for turbine to stop? Metallurgical change because of heat, or because of certain change in environment, because of temperature change. Correct?
Yes.
Now that could suddenly one day, because it's a continuous running machine. So in these kind of critical process industry, or critical assets like an airplane or a ship, there are proven technologies that have been used by engineers for many decades. So, for example, signature verification. So you can see the vibration analysis of a bearing over a period of time.
Yes.
To understand that whether that bearing noise or the vibration is as per the tolerable limits. Because you can't see it with naked eyes unless you do a shutdown and break it. Similarly, for example, there are a lot of predictive signature verification on electrical performance. You have winding temperature analysis.
Yes.
Okay. Now, these technologies, critical industry has been using, and there are very costly diagnostic tools to do. The challenge on us is to convert those measurement technology into digital signal.
Yes.
So create a huge library of vibration trends, okay, for anything rotating at 1500 RPM, anything rotating at 3000 RPM, correct?
Yes.
And say that this rotational vibration signature, is it safe or unsafe? From a lubrication standpoint or from a wear and tear standpoint. Now, to bring that to a digital technology is where I think the world is going to go in the next 10 years. That you do not need a good engineer to do a weekend shutdown and spend lakhs of rupees in taking it out and reassembling and putting it back. And there's a lot of cost and effort required. Reduce it by continuous monitoring. And Japanese use a technology, Rishikesh, which will be also aware, called run to fail. For example, since Maruti, we don't rebore our car engines. Ambassadors and Fiat, we used to hear that the cylinder gets rebored, correct? Or there are sleeves put on the pistons.
Yes.
But in these kind of cars, you don't have a reboard, you don't have a sleeve business, because they have been designed to give tremendous performance, fuel average and performance power for their lifespan. And once it's over, you have to just throw it away.
Yes.
So that is the kind of predictive diagnostic on critical equipment, nature analysis, predictive diagnostics,
Yes.
algorithms that create natural abnormal phenomena analysis sitting on a desktop, some of the real high-end stuff. On the other side, we are going to use a lot of AI to figure out abnormality. So there are two use cases, experience and efficiency. Use cases that would drive efficiency of the service team. Okay. So how do you do certain kinds of elementary checks automatically at periodic intervals to see that your efficiency curve on various activities is dropping or not? And what are the reasons for drop? And from the experience standpoint, because the services are delivering experience to the occupants or the end user, that how is their experience, how many tickets have been raised, how quickly the TAC of that ticket was closed, is the number of tickets going up, what are the periods of time when the tickets are going up, the resolutions are happening as per TAC, and based on those kind of characteristics of creating informed, I would use the word synthesized database, you would create agentic. So you'll create autonomous applications which will therefore analyze those synthesized data and say, hey, Rishikesh being the head of the operation need not have to say. System will tell Rishikesh, I see that your employee experience is dropping. Take care. Deep dive on these 3 kinds of trend charts, which is available on your desktop, and I'm mailing you in 5 minutes. So these kind of applications of experience, efficiency, and critical equipment performance are important. Now, 30 more seconds on critical equipment performance would also lead to energy optimization. Was a question. So if your equipments are operated within those typical flat band where there's a linearity between performance and input power, you will find that your output is one of the best. We use terminologies. You are a technical person called ER, energy efficiency ratios. So you'll find the right kind of ER bands, correct? So to say that is there any kind of magic wand which can create an energy efficiency having invested into a product? No. But it is the maintenance technology and the operations techniques using science in a manner which you can efficiently deliver using digital platforms is the way forward on efficiency, sustainability, uptime, and equipment.
This is very helpful, sir. And now the last topic that we'll have for this podcast is that you have worked across global markets. You have been into India, Middle East, Europe, Singapore. What differences do you see in the way organizations approach sustainability and a smart workplace adoption in these geographies as compared to what you are seeing in India?
Yeah, I'm thinking as you are processing my answer. This is an interesting question. Left to Indian companies, adoption of technology in workplaces would have taken a longer time, because please bear in mind cost and efficiency. Cost and efficiency. Efficiency is poor, cost is low. So you can actually pack in 10 technicians and yet not blow a big hole on your car. So many of our maintenance and operations organizations are leveraging that. So it doesn't really matter. Just army or down. Put some extra people, they'll cover up the efficiency. But what is happening is with the GCCs coming in, and the large multinational companies using India as their technology development hub or their R&D hub over the last 20 years has now created new benchmarks. So how Airbus operates, let's say, their R&D center, or how Google operates its campus in Hyderabad, or how, let's say, a Microsoft manages their workplace, correct? Or let's say how an organization of a similar repute manages their people and their workplace is also becoming aspirational for Indian organizations. Why? Because from a talent retention standpoint. So if you are to get a top dollar talent, so I'm using top dollar, top high quality or high caliber talents from Google to work for you, you to also give him or her a workplace that they have been experiencing during their tenure in Google, correct? Including the services and the support and the perquisites that come with a workplace, correct?
Yes.
So therefore, now the inertia of Indian enterprises to say कि वो लोग डाल देंगे वो काम हो जाएगा is changing. So their CHROs are challenging their organization and the boardroom that we also need to have great workplaces, so that we could kind of attract talent from these large multinationals to come and work for us, because that is non-negotiable if you are to be competitive at a global scale. So today, the Reliances of the world, if you see some of the Reliance new offices in Bombay, especially where they run their technology business, are no way inferior to some of the multinational GCC centers, let's say in Hyderabad or Bangalore. And that is the trend. So it was spurred by the multinational culture of building high quality workplace, which Indian corporations are today baselining as their bare minimum. So overall, that is lifting the whole piece around what I call organization and trying to adopt these kind of best practices.
Yes.
Can you repeat that question? I'm missing one part.
Like how? Yes, this was exactly, sir. How is the adoption and views towards workplace safety?
Yeah. So I
different?
think responsible organization, that is a word that you should and your audience should know. That any organization could be even an Indian company or a regional company or a company based in North India. But if they are responsible, they will build a tech-enabled workplace that helps elevate the experience,
Yes.
make work processes smart, and the environment of the workplace healthy. So they would do that because they want to attract and retain their talent to continue.
Yes, absolutely, sir. And this was very insightful. I've got a side question that coming out of my mind. This is not related to the discussion. Is basically India is still is being so kind of seen as a back office for a lot of companies. Even these GCCs are like form of where they will take up the work was what TCS Infosys were doing. Like, they have set up their own offices, they will take it up. So India is not yet seen across the globe as some country, which is kind of developing big enterprise products or, going across to the globe to, with this like Microsoft's, Google and Facebooks and all those things. How do you see that perception getting changed that India is a volume market, but it's a value market as well, in terms of good products being developed? Is it happening or is it a long way to go?
Yeah, I think this is the toughest and the most interesting question that you asked this afternoon. So, without getting into too much of detail, see how Zoho has still done. Pure play SaaS enterprise and challenging today some of the largest enterprise SaaS players in the world.
Yes.
Grown, it's taken them
Bootstrap. Homegrown bootstrap.
bootstrap,
Yes.
absolutely. And it's a classic case that we should all be proud of.
Yes.
But yeah, they were early adopters. They came into the world much before the whole digitization wave had started in India. So they had that tolerance to make a mistake and correct and yet be in the game. Today, no, you don't have it. You make a mistake, you're out. So early companies have that ability to transform, recharge, and so enterprise SaaS application, Rishikesh, as you all know, and your audience will know, is one of the toughest uh, sectors to crack, both from an adoption standpoint and from a scalability standpoint. Scalability is on behalf of the organization that is offering it, and adoption from the end user standpoint. For various reasons, I'm not getting into it.
Yeah.
But for building applications like ours, so I
Yeah.
think the recent case in point is Enlight, a very small company out of Bombay, run by two very young people. They're kind of challenging the Honeywells and the Schneiders and the other people of the world. And I take their name because I'm filled with pride, because when I started becoming Honeywell's India team member way back in the early 90s, smart buildings weren't even heard. We had to kind of explain what smart buildings stood for or what it meant. But coming from there, let's say in about 30 years, to see an Indian company challenging Honeywell and raising significant capital from high pedigree funds
Hmm.
and have a global aspiration to operate in most markets, PAC, EMEA, etc., like a breath of fresh air. So today, what is happening is we as Indians, which is beyond doubt, our entrepreneurial spirit is much higher than folks in the West.
Yes.
The,
Yes.
the kind of the kind of rigor, the kind of intensity
Hmm.
that we as Indians, as a DNA, we are born I mean, it's not all, but most entrepreneurs who make a cut, they are immensely resilient. So I think in an environment where you have some of the finest engineering talent, which we can't deny today, because most of the large codes uh, or the most complex technology advancements in some of the largest organizations in America, be it technology, science, or software, are written by people like you and me, correct? And if
Well,
we
like you,
see,
sir, not me. Don't include me.
no, I'm saying, yeah, people who've come from your college or my college or similar
Yes.
Indian university, correct? But they're gifted, talented, but they have been kind of extremely resilient. So resilience and the DNA of Indians to struggle, our ability to engineer solutions would stand and deliver it at a price which can beat any
Yes.
Western product.
Yes.
I think that combination is going to stand in favor of Indian SaaS enterprises.
Yes.
And bear in mind that we don't have the baggage, unlike some of the large Western SaaS
Yes.
companies, enterprise SaaS companies that we carry. So we're challenging the whole reality in the SaaS business. And with AI coming in, there's a fresh start for everybody.
Yes.
So I think that Indian SaaS B2B applications or enterprise applications are uh, going to get global, be it in the building space, be it in the application space, or be it in the enterprise space. You will see a lot of you must be aware. Again, I'm taking name Darwin Box.
Yes.
Today, one of the success stories in the HR space, and they have lots of customers outside India.
Yes.
And again, a story that we as entrepreneurs in India are proud to talk about. That homegrown HRMS solution going and meeting business needs in US or in Europe is really outstanding. So I think that is that myth that enterprise solutions can't be built in India and scaled globally is anymore a doubt. The question depends on the sector. The question depends on the nature of leadership and the ability of the entire organization to fight it out and build something that they're proud of.
Thank you so much, sir. Very insightful discussion. Again, extremely grateful. We at Dawdle are extremely grateful to host you on a session, and I hope this is going to be very much beneficial to a lot of leaders who will be watching it. We have over 12,000 plus subscribers of leaders in the workplace domains, the facilities, EXOs, and directors across the globe. And I'm sure that this podcast is going to be very useful for them. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Rishikesh. I wish Dawdle a very successful journey ahead and good wishes to all your audience. May they all find this meaningful for what they're doing or what they're building.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, sir.